Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome into the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. I'm Eric Cain alongside Grant Ramey and Brent Hubbs. Plenty of questions to get into today on Tennessee football, recruiting, baseball, basketball, transfer portal, all that and more. We'll start with DaleEllisFan. In this new era, when it seems as though the playing field will be more level with regard to the talent acquisition due to rev share and legit NIL deals, do you think Tennessee will fare better, worse, or the same in football, men's and women's basketball, and baseball?
Well, I mean, I'll be the skeptic here, Grant Ramey. Is it going to be legit? Is it going to be a level playing field, or are there going to be people that figure out how to play in the gray area and figure out ways to beat the system and work around the system? That's the essence of, quite frankly, that's the essence of a lot of sports over the last however many decades you want to look at, right? I mean, it's how can you work around and play in the gray area, and we'll see. I mean, in its truest form, it should level the playing field. If it does, Grant, it gets back to relationships and recruiting and your ability to recruit as a coach, much more so than just outbidding somebody.
Yeah, I mean, the playing field's always going to change, and especially now with the last 5 years and how much stuff has changed, but it does feel like kind of water always finds its level, and those traditional powers are always going to be the traditional powers, and whatever the circumstances are, whatever guardrails are or are not there, feels like everybody's going to find a way to do what they always do. The Alabamas, the Texas, the Georgias, the Floridas, the Tennessees, football-wise, those powers are going to be there. Same with basketball, same with other sports. It feels like, regardless of whatever changes, those same schools that have been at the top of their respective sports for years and years and years now are probably going to stay there.
Yeah, here's the other thing, too, and I think this gets lost a little bit, and I'm not going to go on a long soapbox here, Eric, I promise, but this gets lost a little bit for fans who are always harping about elite recruiting. When are you going to beat out these schools for this player? Or when they're going to be in the top 5 back like it used to be? And I don't want to take anything away from what Philip Fulmer and his staff accomplished. They were great recruiters. But the landscape in the Southeast at that time was very, very different than what it is now. Clemson was they were a doorstop or a doormat or a threat. I mean, they were a non-factor. South Carolina, Brad Scott, those crews, not very good. Georgia had some talent, but they were not winning at the level that obviously they are now, so they weren't as attractive. I mean, they kept some in-state talent at home. But, I mean, think about it. I mean, could Tennessee go to Anderson, South Carolina right now and get Sean Ellis away from Clemson? It'd be hard. Could Tennessee get Deion Grant and Cozy Coleman and Jamal Lewis, all three away from Georgia in a given year? It would be hard. Alabama wasn't very good back then. I mean, LSU was down. I mean, they had Jerry DiNardo coaching them and Curly Hallman. And it was Tennessee took great advantage of it. And because Tennessee did so well, everybody around them elevated. Philip Fulmer's the reason Georgia committed to Mark Richt and did things differently. And everybody tried to raise their game to what Tennessee and Florida was doing. What I'm saying is there is more big boys playing at a high level now in the SEC than there was when Tennessee was putting together the, quote, #1 recruiting class in the country each and every year, or top 5 each and every year. All right, I'm off my box. Go ahead, Eric.
We'll continue on with more recruiting questions. This one's from CanadaVol. It seems like the Vols have hit a ceiling in recruiting. It's not like we're doing bad at all, but there are about 6 to 8 programs that consistently out-recruit UT year in and year out. Others bounce around like we do in that next tier. Do you think around 10th in high school recruiting is where Tennessee should be long-term? I don't see us on a trajectory to regularly beat out Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, LSU, Texas, Texas A&M, and to be in that echelon.
Yeah, that goes back to what I was talking about a little bit, Grant. I mean, Texas' commitment to football right now is really high. Ohio State's always been good. Oregon, they're not exactly 40 years of great tradition in winning in Oregon football. They've made a commitment to be great, and they've become kind of a sexy, attractive team out there. So it's just hard. I think if you have a top 10 class, you've had a really good year putting a class together. That's my opinion, Grant.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the ceiling. It certainly feels like that's where they've topped out recently. I don't think that's something that can't change in the future or somewhere down the road. I think it's also could be different in this day and age with the portal. I mean, if you hammer the portal and you kill it there, then that makes a top 10 recruiting class look a lot different in terms of just prep prospects. I don't know if we're talking the entire portal and prep prospects in these rankings, but if you're going to be, if you're going to have a certain ceiling with your prep guys, you better be really good in the portal. If you're going to have a certain ceiling in the portal, you better be good with your prep class, and you better be developing talent and keeping guys there and all that stuff. So it feels like it's the ceiling right now, maybe, but it doesn't mean that has to be the case moving forward, in the years ahead.
Another question here from CanadaVol. On a recent pod, one of the Volquest crew used the term camp offer when referring to recruits. I've never understood how the conversation goes when a school makes a scholarship offer, but it's not committable offer. What do coaches say to recruits when they extend those somewhat fake offers?
Well, I don't know that you would call them a fake offer. It's an offer. I mean, they don't tell them, hey, it's an offer, but you can't do it right now. But they're offering those. You're offering the guy with the understanding that he's not going to jump in the boat right then. If you want to offer the guy and be in the recruiting game with him, the one thing you want to make sure of, if you're still wanting to further evaluate him, but you feel like you have to offer him to be in the game, you want to make sure he's not ready to make an immediate decision unless you're absolutely ready to take him. We live in a world now, Eric, I mean, you followed enough recruiting, Grant, you have too, where guys aren't just jumping in on their first offer. I mean, they're just not. And so I don't know that there's really that many more non-committable offers given. I think you just have to offer to get in the game, and guys are collecting offers and then working from there. So I don't think it's a big deal, because I don't think guys are going to commit, Johnny on the spot. I mean, JP Peace is a guy who he was going to Tennessee from birth, right? And I mean, he didn't commit 5 minutes after he got the offer. He committed 2 or 3 weeks after. But you knew that was one that he would probably make a pretty quick decision if you offered. But most of those guys, I mean, there's just not a lot of those. Most of those guys, are collecting offers to put out their graphic of my top 12, my top 15. I'm going to take a bunch of visits, and then I'm going to go from there.
Yeah, it's come camp if you want to camp. Maybe you get an offer, maybe you don't. Come back for a game, probably get an offer, maybe you don't. Come back for junior day, come back for spring practice. Then we'll talk about 865 Live. Then we'll talk about official visits. I mean, there's a whole process with the graphics and channeling things down and everything. There's a whole song and dance to the deal. But, there's very few that feels like they commit early to a cycle. I know Faison did. I know JP Peace, we're just talking about, did for next year's class. But typically there's a song and dance to, getting them on campus a couple different times, and then obviously getting into the decision-making process. SPittVol, will parity define the upcoming college football season? It feels like all of the changes in the sport are moving in that direction, where on any given day, any team can be beat.
Grant, you want to go first?
Grant, I still think, I think there's some pretty solid teams at the top, but I mean, Ohio State, Texas,
right.
Georgia, Oregon. I mean, they're all still pretty good. I think that there's definitely an upper echelon in college football for the really good teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still the usual suspects. And you saw the first round of the college football playoff in December. Everybody wanted it to be March Madness and upsets and all this stuff across the board. And there wasn't a lot of close football games in that first round. And there was a lot of the traditional powers that were moving on. You had some teams make a run and stuff like that. But maybe it does down the road. I don't know if it does immediately, this quickly. Maybe when the playoff expands, something changes. But football's a game where it's hard to beat talent, and it's hard to beat teams when you're outclassed. So until talent gets more spread out and it's not just so kind of top heavy with the usual suspects, I don't think it changes that much going forward. Do you?
I think 2 things stand out to me. One, I think in this day and age, it's harder and harder to get guys to play at their peak level every week, particularly as you further extend the season. There's a day where you don't have your best. Now, if it's against the right opponent, it's okay to not be at your best. If it's against the wrong type of opponent, then yeah, you can get upset. So yeah, quote, there's parity, but I think part of that parity stems from the fact that it's hard to get a guy to be at a peak level for 17 weeks or 16, whatever number we're getting to now, essentially. Here's the other thing, too, for this season that feels different. Feels like you got one marquee quarterback in the country. Now, I don't think that's fair, but it feels like that's what you have. Arch Manning he's the unicorn for the year, right? Oregon's got a new quarterback. Ohio State's got a new quarterback. I mean, the traditional blue bloods. Georgia's breaking in a new quarterback. I know he played in the playoff, but he's a new guy. Alabama's got a new quarterback. So I think some of these more traditional teams that have been there year in and year out, it feels a little different for them, a little more of an unknown, because they're not as proven at quarterback as they have been in previous years. Even though those quarterbacks might have been coming from a different place, they had still played. Will Howard had played. Dylan Gabriel had played when he went to Oregon. So you knew he was capable. Those guys were capable at that level. You're a little bit unsure of exactly where you are at the quarterback position at some of those places, which makes you feel like you potentially could have some more parity maybe than you've had in years past. But we'll see if it plays out that way.
I think you can have more parity in the season. I should say that, because you have an Alabama going to Vanderbilt and losing because Vanderbilt got a quarterback out of the portal and kind of caught lightning in a bottle. That can happen, and you can afford losses like you're talking about, Hubs, in the regular season and still make the playoff, especially if it keeps expanding. I think when the parity kind of starts to end is that third week in December, where those teams that have home games in the playoff kind of prove why they're the home team in the playoff game.
I agree with that.
Just don't lose late in the season on the road at Oklahoma, and that loss will keep you out of the playoffs.
Yeah, don't lose at Florida when you have a playoff spot on the line in November.
Yeah. Sam Smith, 2233. Cain, please give us the exact percentages to the 25th decimal on the likelihood of the following guys making it to campus.
25
I'm not
decimals.
Do it like Austin
25
Price,
decimals.
That's an AP thing, but I'll play my hand at this. And again, this is a guess in the draft. You can't predict the draft, but based on conversation last couple of weeks, I put some of this in the war room. Brent put some of this in the war room last week. Ford, I'd go 50% right now. I truly think it's just.
I need a decimal. And I didn't put anything in the war room. 25. You wrote it. Go ahead.
50.33.
Okay,
in
there you
favor
go.
of getting to the campus.
You've got 22 more decimals to go.
Got a couple more. That's kind of where I'm at on Ford. I think it's kind of a coin flip. Schoolcraft, man, I'd probably go 45%, 45.3%. I would lean closer to 40-60 than 60-40 in terms of getting him to campus. But you never know. Barr, I mean, I'd go 1.6758%. I don't think he's going to make it to campus. I think he's going professional. Appenzeller's interesting. I think there's some confidence there. Again, can't predict the draft, but I would lean more 62%. And then a lot of these other ones there's a lot of confidence that they're going to get those guys to campus. Again, nothing's a sure thing, but I mean, for me, pretty confident 70% or above. I mean, Edmondson 70%. Myatt 75% for me. Grindlinger can certainly go early in the draft, but I think he's got an asking price. I think it's high, and I think he wants to be in college. And so I expect him on campus. I put him at 75%. Estrada is interesting. I think that's more of a toss-up. We'll go 50.3% again. I like the 0.3s, 50.5%. There you go. Lastly, the odds on Arvidsson. I would say 40% he gets to campus. I think he's going the professional route, in my opinion. So feel free to add anybody else I missed. I put in Newman and Blanco. Again, those guys are draft eligible, but I think there's a lot of confidence that they're going to get those to campus. I put those around 75 and 70%. Again, can't predict the draft, but just having a little fun there. Smoky Man 15, how's the offseason gone for Boo Carter?
I think good. I mean, it's pretty obvious he can play at this level. I think his commitment's has been solid. I think he's gotten stronger in the weight room and is getting a better grasp of the defense. I thought this staff did a really nice job with Boo Carter last year of not was it Butch's phrase? Who had the tie your feet up with your mind or whatever? I don't know who had that phrase. I thought they did a good job of letting him be an athlete all year long. I never felt like he was overwhelmed mentally, which is easy to do at the star position because you're asking them traditionally a veteran guy to do a whole bunch of stuff. I think they kind of protected that a little bit to let him be an athlete. I expect he will be better in terms of grasping the defense, where you can do some more things with him, and maybe he can do some more side adjustments depending on what motion is doing. And, does he travel with the motion man? Does he stay? And some of that developed as the season went along, but they were really, I thought they did a really good job of letting him be what he is. And that's an athlete at his best throughout the season, and sort of slowly built it with him. He should be better mentally this year than he was last.
They allowed him to see a little so he could see a lot.
There you go.
They didn't want him sipping through a fire hose. Shout out Butch.
Yeah.
They just wanted 63 effort, one play at a time.
But they did a little better than watering bamboo, Derek Dooley.
That's true. And shower discipline, probably, hopefully.
This is from Eric_Cain. Brent, what are your thoughts on Boo Carter being the third highest rated receiver in the college football 26 video game?
I mean, I've got to see him play over there. I mean, I think the interesting thing with Boo Carter is athletically, and you know me, I've been talking about getting the ball in his hands since he signed with Tennessee. I think they took way too long to put him back there as a punt returner. He should have been the punt returner from the first kick of the year, in my opinion. I hope that they get the ball in his hands. The question I have about that, Grant, is back to sort of what we're talking about. Are they going to have a few plays for him? Are they going to really let him play the position? Can he really manage both mentally, physically? I don't worry about him, but can he handle side adjustment routes? Or is it going to be really, hey, you got 4 plays and we're going to use that? And those things, when you only have those type deals, it's pretty quick for everybody to kind of pick up on what you're doing there. Makes those really hard. I think the most impressive thing that they did with Travis Hunter at Colorado is he just played both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
He just straight up played. Now, the corner position is easier to learn mentally because you're playing man or you're playing zone. The star position, they're asking you to do a lot more mentally. But I think the question is, how much can Boo handle in terms of managing defense, and how far do they want to take the offensive package with him? I think that will be interesting to see. They'll show it in week 1, right? The question is going to be in week 3, how comfortable are they with it?
I would take the same exact approach I took last year with Boo on the other side of the ball and just slow play it and grow as you think he can grow with it, and just don't force it. Don't, just take your time with it, give him a little bit to start with, and just go from there and grow as he grows.
And again, this is where the Colton Hood transfer portal edition comes into play, right? I mean, does Hood free up Jalen McMurray to go over there and split a lot of time at star? Not 50-50, but, kind of like Christian Harrison did last year. Can he go in there and play some big-time snaps for Tennessee while Boo is playing defense, returning kicks, returning punts, and, getting his toes wet on offense? I don't know. We'll see. Boo was a 50-50 player the first couple weeks of the year, and then he kind of took over. Mm-hmm. But I think Hood, it could be him, it could be Jalen McMurray. I mean, that creates some options in the secondary to free up Boo Carter to go and do some things, or just get him a break because he's going to be playing a ton of football.
Well, and then where do they factor in with Jamad McCoy? Where do those two factor in there when McCoy gets back? So I think Grant's on to it. I think you're right as well, Eric. I think it's a build. I don't think it's an out of the gate, going to play a ton of stuff early. I think you build with him as you go. And I think that build depends on how much you have to have him for every play on defense, how much you feel like you can rotate there. And then again, what can he mentally handle? It's
just Eric_Cain to answer your question. Who do you trust more, some guy in a EA Sports office or Brent Hubbs? I'm going to lean towards the EA Sports guy.
I don't blame you. I mean, those. I mean, what's Sham Umaroff? He like the 3rd highest ranked offensive lineman on the roster for Tennessee.
He's the highest. I mean, they have him as the starting left guard. I don't know what it was.
EA Sports is buying in hard on Tennessee football. Apparently,
Boo is at 78 at wide receiver, 87 on defense.
All right,
there you go. I don't know how you come up with those.
I don't know either. Vol
Some would say they don't know how Hubbs comes up with opinions either, so it's probably fair.
By_Grace. Good question that I think everybody's still trying to figure out here. Will UT have any players go into the portal in this new exemption window the NCAA has granted through August the 5th? reading the article from Nakos, it seems like a pretty limited scope to likely consist of guys who may have been cut at some point anyway. It also seems it covers athletes in general and not just a single sport. Brent, yeah, this definitely covers the entire athletic base, not just a single sport. It'll be interesting to see how all these teams go about this. I don't think it's going to be a fast-moving window where you see a ton of guys go in. But who do these coaches and programs, designate as those designated student athletes? What's that look like? Take baseball, for example. And again, I think they're trying to figure it out right now. But, I mean, you had 25 guys into the portal, right? And so, like, if you're going to tag some of those guys, that would have happened before they went to the portal. Now, they still have to get down to 34, and they're still a little bit over that threshold there in terms of the signing class. Could that tag apply for some of these guys in the signing class, and then could they elect to jump in the portal there? We'll have to see. Does Tennessee want to take a chance on anybody else in that boat from the portal? And the way I understand it, that's a one-time flyer, right? So, like, if you take someone with that tag, they don't count for you if their entire collegiate career. It could be 4 years, could be 3 years, whatever. So, they're just trying to figure it out, obviously. I know this has been a part of the House settlement the entire time, but it was just introduced last week. But it will be interesting to see how sports and teams go about it at each individual school.
Well, I'm curious to see what if it has any impact on SEC football in year one, because they're not going to 105 scholarships right away, right? I mean, you don't have to be at 105 in August. No. That's going to be a January deal. So I don't know that it has a huge impact on SEC football right now. But we'll see. I mean, it doesn't feel like there's going to be a bunch of people running into that deal over the course of the next month. I mean, poor old baseball, man. Hey, let's just throw something else on you, right? You got your regular transfer portal window. You got the draft. We're going to make you cut your roster. Now you can put a designated deal on somebody. You can take a flyer. I mean, like, oh, and by the way, go find some high school kids for your next couple of classes. Good luck with that. Like, I mean, administratively, it's a zoo in college baseball right now.
No, it definitely is. And Grant, maybe I'm being short-sighted because I cover baseball, but I mean, programs like baseball and softball and some of the non-revenue programs are what's really going to be affected by this. I mean, again, sure, your total numbers going down a little bit in football, but you're going from 85 to 105 scholarships. So, like, I don't think it's going to – and in basketball, you're going up 3. Like, I don't think it's going to affect those programs as much as the non-revenue or baseball, softball.
I'll tell you what, coaches and athletic directors are very well compensated and for good reason, and it's always been for good reason. But the last 4 or 5 years, they have earned their money more than ever before. And it feels like it's just getting started still. Like trying to answer all these questions and trying to figure out all these scholarships and roster numbers and spots and portal dates and all this stuff. Like, you are earning every penny that you're getting.
I know it hit Brent Hubbs a long time ago probably, but for me, like, everybody's entitled to their own opinions on coaching salaries and all that. Are they worth it? Are they not? Yada, yada. But, man, when I used to go over there and help you guys cover those camps in June, and I would see these coaches come out there, and it looks like they haven't slept in 3 weeks. I'm just like, holy crap, man. I mean, what a grind. And the season is literally right around the corner. I know you get to July, get a little off time, but it's like, man, you look burnt out. like go get some sleep. It's because
that was probably back in the old days.
Yeah, they probably don't sleep. They're not sleeping much in the month of June, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, I think arguably one of the best quotes Danny White's given on multiple occasions the last few years is just, will somebody tell me what the rule is? What are the rules? Because whatever rule you have on Wednesday, it might be a different rule on Friday.
Yep.
And that is the greatest source of consternation for all these coaches and ADs. It's like, I mean, let's get somewhere and let's not change it. Okay, we're going to do it this way this week, and next month we're going to do it some way. It's the rules change, and I think that's been a great source of frustration for everybody right now. I mean, we're going to go, if nothing happens the end of this week. Kirby Smart's going to hit the podium on Tuesday at SEC Media Day, and he is going to stand right back on that soapbox about the lack of transfer portal window dates. Doesn't know them. And this is something the committees have been talking about. The AFCA has been talking about, recommended it. The NCAA has been talking about, conferences have been talking about since January. January, and it's the middle of July. I mean, at some point you have to make a decision, whether it's the right one or the wrong one. You got to make a decision and go with it. I was talking to David Cutcliffe for that Georgia story I did, and he actually was. We were talking about football stuff, and he referred to that. He was talking about a quote from what Patton said. It's like, make a decision and go. And that's the soapbox with the NCAA is, Grant, there's no decision. Well, we're going to talk about it some more. Pick a date, man. Let's go.
Let's get in a meeting room in Dallas in February, and let's all chat about it for the weekend, and then let's regroup in July and chat about it again.
Did y'all ever watch Whose Line Is It Anyway back in the day?
Yeah.
Drew Carey would open every show by saying, "Welcome to Whose Line Is It Anyway," where the rules are made up and the points don't matter. Yeah. That feels like college athletics until further notice. The rules are made up and the points don't matter.
It's a great way to say it. It does feel that way. You're right.
Yeah. That was
points
a really
matter
good story,
points matter on the field, on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
All right, all orange in Georgia. You guys have mentioned before that this stat does not push recruits to commit early. Out of those recruits that do commit early, how many of them do you think end up staying with that school? Not just Tennessee, but other schools. More than half, less than half will do instead of percentages. More than half, less than half will do instead of percentages. Not trying to get too crazy. And since I'm asking period, same question, but before the NIL era. Clemson comes to mind in this regard, trying to squeeze recruits to get commits early. And I mean, for the most part, Clemson does a pretty decent job over the years of keeping that class intact. It's just kind of all about the way you want to do your strategy.
Yeah, I mean, it's really not squeezing early. It's squeezing while they're on campus in their month of visits.
Yeah,
it's what it is. It's do you squeeze in May on a visit, and try to prevent them from taking visits in June and get it done? You're not squeezing somebody, 6 months before visits start. Like, you're not squeezing in January. So it's a little bit different there. I would say definitely more than half stick with the school that they commit to. I mean, you have some flips, clearly. I mean, we see those. I mean, we see it on social media, and the On3 social media team does a great job with, flip watch, flip alerts, and, all the things that they do with their graphics. There's obviously some of that, but I would say it's way less than half. I mean, most people, when they commit somewhere in this day and age, are pretty solidly committed. And I think part of that's because of the NIL deals, right? I mean, you once you make that decision, in a lot of cases, you know what your number is and what your NIL deal is, and there's not a whole lot of going back to the table on some of that stuff after the fact. So it's probably slowed down some of the flips, in some regard. But I don't know exact percentages or numbers. But it just that doesn't feel like there's a ton of flips.
I would think we're moving away from the early commitments, and there's probably less flips because of that. Like Faison Brandon is a exception to the rule, it feels like these days, where he committed August before his junior year. Had a big junior year, has been highly rated the entire way. And to my knowledge, there's been no drama with him. He's just been committed and stayed committed, and there's been no problem there. I think that's very rare this day and age. I think taking early commitments, I think, would probably come down to kind of doing your homework on the kid. And do you think this guy's going to be shopping around until the end and you're going to have to worry about him? That kind of thing. Keep him. Obviously, you got to keep recruiting all these kids to keep them committed, but some are going to shop more than others.
And
yeah,
I think
Faison's a guy that came back the week after his official visit, leaving the Elite 11, coming back to help recruit the final OV weekend for Tennessee. He's a guy that is bought in.
That's a dream scenario, and it's going to be the exception to the rule, it feels like.
I think because quarterbacks, you have to take quarterbacks so early because they make decisions so early. I do think that's a position where there's probably more flips at that position now than there was pre-NIL or 15 years ago.
Right.
But because it used to be that a quarterback made a decision in the summer going into his senior year. Most quarterbacks are off the board, sometime their junior year, or in some cases going into their junior year. They're off the board and make decisions. So I do think there's a chance probably for a few more quarterback flips if a guy blows up, somebody's desperate for a quarterback, and things can kind of get screwy there. I mean, we saw that at the situation with Michigan last year where the kid flipped from LSU to Michigan because Michigan just went all in. They put all their chips on the table and said, we're going to get him. There's some of that at that position because that position sets the tone for who you are and what you're about. So quarterbacks are probably more of an exception now than they used to be in terms of flip positions versus others.
DavyVol, are Coach Heupel and staff recruiting well enough to be in the mix for a playoff spot on a yearly basis, Grant?
Yeah, I mean, the playoff is at 12 and it's expanding. I think they're ranked maybe 13th right now, recruiting-wise. I think they're usually in that kind of neighborhood. We were talking about being, 8 to 10 ranked in that kind of ceiling or whatever in one of the earlier questions. I think if you are recruiting in that area, if you're doing well in the portal, if you're winning on the field, I think Heupel's been in that 8 to 10 range pretty consistently in his time at Tennessee. If you're going to do that, I think you're going to be in that playoff conversation.
I would agree. I mean, obviously, I know he's talking high school right now, and I know Tennessee didn't have that big of a portal class this year, but transfer portals helped Tennessee. Tennessee's had some great evals. Tennessee's had some great success stories under Josh Heupel in the transfer portal, so that's very much a part of this as well. It's not, I mean, the backbone of every program is still high school recruiting. That's still the most important thing. I'm not trying to diminish that, but it is different now. And, I mean, there's a reason Tennessee went from 3-7 and an absolute train wreck in 2020 to 7-5 in a bowl game in 21, where many people were thinking, man, Tennessee's not going to have a winning record for 4 or 5 seasons. Jeremy Pruitt actually went out and got a quarterback before he was canned, and that quarterback hit it off with Heupel, and it turned into success. I mean, it accelerated things. So I think as long as you're kind of where you are, I mean, obviously you want to be better. You never want to be, stagnant. You need to win some more big boy battles. Winning Braden Rouse, closing on that one was huge for this staff, in my opinion. I mean, man, William Minge on a tear, right? I mean, this line, not just this class, but the last couple of classes, the quality of player in that room right now from a recruiting standpoint is phenomenal. But that was a big boy win. Where you at with Tristan Keys, Savion Hyder, some of these other ones, but you got to develop those guys, and you got to hit on the portal, and you got to sprinkle in there where you need it. And I think Tennessee's done a pretty good job in that regard.
I think the portal is going to be fascinating to watch the next 2 to 3 years. How many kids are doing multi-year deals? Are you going to have to buy your way out to go into the portal if you're a player? How does that change the portal? Do kids say, no, I'm not doing a multi-year deal and leave money on the table so that they have the freedom? Is somebody is an agent going to take care of the buyout if that comes? I mean, that's another layer to all of this that will be interesting to see sort of what happens. And with the rev share numbers that you're having, and that you're distributing to your current team, how much money is there going to be to play in the portal in January with teams? How many people are you going to cut so that you can put your deal? But those guys are on rev share contracts through July. I think the portal is going to become another interesting piece to manage in all of this. And he who manages the best will be the most successful. And I think what the portal looks like, assuming we stay in a winter window in January, is going to be it's going to be interesting when you factor in the rev share contracts now.
Yeah, especially the contracts running through, like you said, July. That makes it really interesting. Sorry, Grant, what were you saying?
I think you have to give Hype the benefit of the doubt because 2022, if it's a 12-team playoff, they're in the playoff. There's been one 12-team playoff. They were in it in 2024. They got a lot of questions to answer, obviously, in this coming season. But I think based on what you've seen, you've got to give him kind of the benefit of the doubt that they're going to be in that playoff conversation, just as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I think schedule-wise, there's things that are beneficial to them. We'll see what the ultimate schedule looks like. But the thing about them is they were great in 22 offensively. They got in the playoffs last year playing a different style of football.
Right.
So they've adapted, they've changed, they evolve. I mean, I think that's the thing you should be encouraged by is it doesn't suddenly have to be to have a chance to win. You got to score 45 points. I mean, he's adapting in how he coaches the game. Their program has adapted as the talent has arrived, and Tim Banks' program has grown. They can beat you different ways than they could in 22 which they would have been a playoff team that year if it had been expanded playoffs and all of that. But I think that should be the encouraging thing if you're a Tennessee fan about where this program is under Josh Heupel right now.
Yeah, that's my whole thing. Like, I know there's some fans like gnashing of the teeth. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, the offense in areas last 2 years, got to be better. I mean, I understand the explosives, down the field passing, red zone efficiency. When we talk about this stuff, Brent, all the time, like, I get it. Like, things need to get better. The tempo, things need to get better, or get back to where they were the first couple of years. But again, the evolution, the roster's makeup, how it's gotten better, how you can rely on your defense to win games when you were winning 1,000% in spite of your defense the first 2 years. Going on the road in the Southeastern Conference and handing the football off and running the football and playing defense and winning a game. I mean, that was just not even on the sheet, on the big board there the first couple of years. So just seeing the way that Heupel himself, his staff, but this team and this roster has evolved in 4 years. I mean, as a football guy, that gets me excited, right? And I mean, sure, again, you want to go back, explosive plays, red zone efficiency and all that, but being able to win games. And I mean, last year was a really, really good year. And a lot of people will say, well, the offense was just awful. Still, you were a playoff team, and that's saying something, right?
Well, I mean, the thing is, and I'm not saying you'll never see 22 offensively ever again. I don't know that we will. And I get that's where you want your benchmark to be, but
it's a high benchmark.
Guys running 15 yards wide open, Grant. I mean, they're paying a lot of people on the other the opponent defensive coordinator. They're paying a lot of money to not let people run 15 yards wide open. So some teams have adjusted to what you do. That's why I think red zone efficiency is going to be really important, continue to be really important. It's funny when you talk about leadership and how many people come in and they ask you a question, who's the next Al Wilson on this team? Well, I mean, that's a unicorn. That 22 offense in some ways might be a little bit of a unicorn, Grant. We may not see that ever again. Quarterback, receiver, defensive coordinators, not sure what Tennessee was doing, all of those types of things. It may be, replicating it just like that is going to be really hard to do. And I'm not sure anybody's going to allow you to do that defensively.
Which is all the more reason to harp on the fact that they've adjusted and they've played really good defense and they've found other ways to win football games, as you were talking about.
All right, this is from CP Thompson 1028. Eric, a question I know you're going to love. Gut starting 9 for the baseball team next year with 3 weekend starters. I want to ask this question before the draft just to see how drastically different it could be next week. This is a fun question. And again, I mean, who knows?
I mean, just give us the 2 deep.
This is a guess. I mean, I pretty much, because the way Tony does his roster, I mean, there's versatility there. So, like, I went ahead and
give us the 3 deep.
Fill this out here just because, like, it could be this guy, could be this guy.
How many guys are going to be mentioned in 4 different positions?
At least 2. I've got them written down right here. Okay, this is just the best guess on June the 10th or July the 10th, and knowing the draft could change things. But my 3 starting pitchers for next year: give me Coons, give me Mack, and give me Blanco. That's 2 righties and a lefty. Blanco can obviously be in the pen. I think Krenzel could have a say in this as well. But those are my 3 starters. Catcher, Stone's your leader, and then, of course, Garrett Wright, transfer portal addition from Bowling Green. First base, I guess give me Levi Clark. In this scenario, I've got Henry Ford making it to campus, so that's awesome. He could play there. Second base, I mean, the way Ariel Antigua's hitting in summer ball right now, you'd love for that to be him. Give me Jay. No, I want Jay in center field. Give me Ariel at second. Give me Manny at short. Give me Chris Newstrom at third. Give me Garrett Wright in left. Give me Jay in center, and then give me Henry Ford in right. But again, like Gremmer can play the corner infield, corner outfield. Newstrom can play all over. Newstrom can play second base. Newstrom can play right field. Again, there's so many different scenarios here, but those are the group of players that I kind of see, figuring it out. And then it's up to Tony and staff to figure out kind of what is the best fit for all these different guys.
Eric, do you think Tony and his staff will work to figure it out faster in this upcoming season than they did this past season? Do you think moving guys around the way they did for 2 months of the season affected this team in any possible way negatively? Do you think they would like to get more established earlier than they did in this past season? There's my underscore question for the mailbag podcast.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, typically you're about midway through the SEC slate, and if there's any movement at all, you're kind of figured it out, and this is your 9 to 10, and you're rolling with it. I think Tennessee was just on the just a rough patch there. The back half of SEC play, they were just trying to figure it out, to press the right buttons, and flipping Dean Curley and Gavin Keelan, and looking at the designated hitter spot and all that and more. So I think it took them a little bit longer this year. But typically you're about midway through SEC play, and you kind of have your starters and move on. So yes, to answer your question, I think absolutely you want to figure it out much sooner than you did this year. But this year you were like, they would go into a weekend, say, hey, this is us, we're going to roll with it, and then they would lose. And then they'd have to figure it out again. It was just kind of a weird year. Let's go to Pine. If you had to give a Tennessee Coach of the Year trophy, who would you give it to for this past year?
Oh, man. These trophies usually go to coaches that do the most with the least. It's usually not the coach that meets expectations with a loaded roster or a lot of talent. So I would lean towards Kim Caldwell because, Rick went to the Elite Eight for the second year in a row, but they kind of had pretty high expectations for that squad. Tennessee football was kind of supposed to be in that playoff conversation. They were a playoff team. Softball always has high expectations. They went to the Women's College World Series. Tennessee baseball is Tennessee baseball. It's going to be hard to live up to a 2024 national championship and all the stuff they've done. But they've been to the Supers 5 years in a row and been to Omaha a number of times they have, and they have a title. So I think generally those trophies or those awards go to the coach that does the most surprising job, I think. And the excitement that Kim had, some of the wins that they had, the brand they play, the way they've recruited, all this stuff, feels like she's done a ton of work in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, I looked at this question and was kind of I struggled with it because I think a lot of people did a really good job. Had a really good year and did a really good job. I look a little bit at basketball, and they had a lot of pieces. They had parts coming back with Ziegler and Meshack. But you look what they lost in the post. Okay, Jonas Adu was a productive player. Now you could dislike him because he left for more money, but he was a good basketball player in this system. You can say he made a mistake or whatever, but that was a piece that was lost. That was an offensive weapon that was lost. Then they had the injury to Estrella in the post, and suddenly they became something in the post. And you were replacing a guy who was basically a lottery pick, or should have been a lottery pick. He went later in the first round, in Dalton Connect. And
you had 2 scholarship spots open. You had Cam Carr leave in December.
Yeah, there's a part of me that feels like that was, even though there were points in the season where fans were just, Chaz wasn't good enough and Rick was this and that and everything else. I think it was pretty impressive to get that team to the Elite Eight. What they were in the end of the season is not what they were, or everybody kind of thought they might be in the off season. So I'll give Rick Barnes credit. I thought that was one of his better coaching jobs. When you look at the makeover he had in his roster and kind of how they evolved and were different, I thought he did a nice job.
I think getting to the Elite Eight the way they got to the Elite Eight, obviously the way that Elite Eight game played out is disappointing and leaves kind of a bitter taste.
No doubt.
But they took on a Kentucky team that they'd never played in the NCAA tournament before, a Kentucky team that had kind of embarrassed them in the regular season in those 2 meetings, and Mark Pope had kind of worked around Tennessee and won some big games there, and they manhandled Kentucky in the Sweet 16 on that stage in that environment. That's a big win, and yeah, I think just the way they got there could add to it too.
Yeah, and again, in this hypothetical award, I'm not handing it out to Tony Vitello, but Brent and I did that deep dive there in the postseason or whatever, and it just go back and look at previous national championships and how they fared the next year overall and in conference, and as frustrating as this year was for fans, it was still much, much, much better than the norm for reigning national championship programs.
Well, here's the thing: they did not come back with no one team came back with the biggest trophy and the biggest prize. They didn't win conference championships, but there was a lot of programs on campus that had really, really good years and did some really good things. So. It's why you feel good about where things are right now and the direction that you have things going, and add Kim Caldwell into that mix. I mean, she provided a spark. There was more people interested in Lady Vol basketball this year than there has been in a long time, and that's a credit to her, and that's a credit to what she did. I mean, she inherited a roster that had issues, and she put a roster together in a short period of time and ended up beating the national champions in the regular season and took that team to a Sweet 16 and was in a one-possession game to go to the Elite Eight to start the fourth quarter. So she's got to be in that conversation, as Grant mentioned as well. She had a really good year.
And you beat UConn.
Yeah, you beat the national champs. You beat UConn.
Oh, did they win it? I didn't know if they won it the year before. Yeah, but I mean, it's just UConn.
Well, they won it this past year. I mean, they weren't reigning when they got here, but they had won it. I mean, and look, you got a shot to beat LSU at home. Oklahoma, you missed a shot at the buzzer to win that one. I mean, you were competitive. They were competitive in every game they played, with the exception of Kentucky, and then they laid that egg against Georgia. Other than that, they were good all year long. I mean, they didn't have a long bad stretch. They had a bad week late in the year.
Wonder how many instances there have been in college basketball history where a men's and women's program beat the national champion on their home floor or in that regular season, because Tennessee beat Florida in February and kind of woke the Gators up, and they went on a run from there.
With 7
Fortunately, and Tennessee beat UConn on their home floor, women's basketball.
And woke them up too.
And woke them up.
They were in lead after that game, that's for sure. I don't know. It's a good question.
They got to send some thank you notes.
Let's get our crack research staff on that.
He's on the plane coming back from Rome, Georgia. The crack researcher.
Another question here from Pine. I think it was Brent that mentioned Inky Johnson trying to fight the entire offense the first day or the first week of practice, and Brent thinking this guy better be good. Can you elaborate a bit on that story?
Well, I mean, Inky was 160 some odd pounds dripping wet. He was a no-name recruit that Tennessee had a spot late and decided to give to and not allow him to be a walk-on at Georgia, which is where he was likely heading. And he was fearless. I mean, he just was a guy who he had natural leadership ability, and he totally believed in himself, believed he could play, never had a doubt that he could play at that level, regardless of his size. And he just didn't take any crap off anybody, and he just wasn't going to get pushed around. And so, I mean, he would bow up and get after you. And he was a guy that very quickly, the littlest guy had everybody huddled up, and he didn't care to read anybody the right act. I mean, from early on. And that's why you see what he does now as a motivational speaker. I mean, he's just very comfortable being that kind of guy. And he certainly came to campus with, and not in a negative way, he came to campus with a chip on his shoulder to prove everybody he belonged. And he felt like he needed to kind of mark his turf that way pretty early, which is why he didn't back down from whoever got in his way and whoever tried to do anything. He just didn't back down.
It's the reason Matt Ray stepped in the door at Volquest and attacked Austin Price. Just went straight at him.
Just went straight at him, marking his turf.
Biggest bully on the block. You got to just go straight at him.
Reminds me of a story. We were in the press box. It was the COVID year in 2020, and me and Ben were talking, off to the side or whatever, and AP walks up and says, "Yeah, we're going to hire one of you guys. We just don't know which one yet," and then walks away. And I'm like, what an asshole.
Whoa, language, Eric Cain. My kids might be listening to this.
Family show. Sorry, family show. But that's typical AP, right? Nashville 615. He's got like 4 different questions. I'm gonna pick and choose, man, because we're running out of time. How can Heupel get the roster old and stay old in this new era? That's a challenge. I mean, that's a big time challenge of the transfer portal.
I don't think you can.
Okay.
I think you have to keep the people you want to keep. Okay, but the fact of the matter is, you're not going to be. I don't think you're going to be an old head. I don't think you're going to be an old team. I know Ohio State was this past year, and Tennessee, Grant put a lot into roster retention to try to keep some guys around. But I don't think you're going to be this. It's not like basketball where you got smaller numbers and you can use the portal and be an old team across the board. I just think youth is going to be served in college football, and I just think that's the way it is.
You can hope for multi-year contracts. You can target older guys in the portal. You can try to legally hold some guys hostage if that's possible. I don't know what the answer to that question is, because good luck trying to figure it out.
Day one of fall camp, which players are the mods most interested to see up close?
Day one? Day one's a shorts day. That didn't count. Let's go day 8 when they're in pads. Then we get a chance to see David Sanders. Then we get a chance to see what that left guard stuff looks like. What's the best answer at center? Who looks physical? Day one is for the athletes running around. And I mean, I don't know that there's anything going to shock anybody on day one, right? At the skill guys. I mean, we know what those athletes look like.
I'll take it more as like who
Joey. Everybody wants to see Joey throw it. I wasn't trying to ignore that one. That was just a given. I mean, all eyes are going to flock to the offensive side of the ball and chart his routes versus air completion percentage. Eric Cain will have that in his morning practice update.
Day 1 to 31. Day 1 to 31, it's going to be quarterback, and then some more quarterback.
Yeah, and Josh Heupel's answer is going to be it's competition, and all 3 guys are doing very well.
And the best part about it is, like, we're there for 10 minutes, and we could see, a rough stretch of 10 minutes from one guy, and then he has a really great practice. Like, you put in there, like, while we were there, oh, I knew this guy was going to be a bust. Oh, this is pathetic.
Hey, no video of the mesh handoffs, please.
Can't do it.
We may not have any video of quarterbacks throwing the ball this fall. We'll see how he does, how he manages that one. That'll be fun.
I took that question more or less as like who won the offseason. So like day one, I want to get eyes on David Sanders. I want to see what he looks like. I want to see what Boo Carter's done in the weight room. I want to see what some of these other guys. But David Sanders is kind of one of the first one that came to mind. But to your point, yeah, I mean, day one you're in helmets. Wait until you get to week 2 when you got some pads popping a little bit. Okay, ETSUVol. Who were some possible basketball recruitments for the 2026 class?
2026. Let's see. 4-star point guard Miles Sadler. I think he's ranked number 18 overall. He's going to be visiting late August, like August 29th to 31, I think, are the dates. 4-star power forward Latrell Almond is a guy that Tennessee's been involved with for a while now, going back to probably January or so. I think he's ranked number 25 overall. Billy Watt III, he's another 4-star power forward. Tennessee's got an offer for him, or Tennessee offered him at some point the last couple of months, maybe in the spring. 4-star small forward Bo Ogden, number 48 overall. If you want to feel old, he's the son of former Tennessee assistant coach Chris Ogden, currently at Texas as, I believe, their general manager. Obviously, he played for Rick at Texas and coached with Rick, and is obviously a big fan of Rick and all that stuff. So that's something that would be a pretty big Tennessee connection. 4-star power forward Gage Mayfield. I think he's number 88 overall. He visited a couple weeks ago, late June. So that's 5 names or so, kind of to track early on. Still relatively early there.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear percentages.
That's not my thing. That's your thing. That's your thing to the 25th decimal, and AP's thing to the 2nd decimal.
Yeah. Worst venue you've ever been to cover a game? I'll start off. Mine was Brevard College, back when I was helping Carson Newman. So Brevard College is my worst venue. At the Division I level, I don't know, maybe Missouri, but it's not. I mean, none of them are just horrible. But what do you guys think?
We went to a G League gym in Frisco, Texas for that Gonzaga-Tennessee charity exhibition game when Tyreek Key scored like 27 and they put 99 on Gonzaga or whatever. And that was one of those venues where I'm pretty sure Rick told his guys, like, you better be sure when you go to the league, because if not, you're playing in these kind of gyms in the G League if you're not ready to go to that next level. That's how I think that venue is also minor league hockey and all this stuff. So it was very much, everybody's been in one of those kind of spots. In the SEC, Memorial Gymnasium I just hate that place. Maybe it's fun as a fan. It's just such a pain to work in. And then Vandy football, I don't hate it because we just don't go to that many small stadiums, and it's just a different vantage point. It's a different feel than most of the massive stadiums that you play in this league.
The one I said Missouri because I remember when we went there in 2021, it was like a rainy day in Columbia,
Which
and
is every day.
yeah, every day. Shocker. It's either snowing, overcast, rainy. The windows in the press box were like fogged. So like we had to crack the windows just to see out. So like that was not ideal.
Ben Hill Griffin, it's not great, but I think that's partly because it's usually September and it's 1,000 degrees and it's an outdoor press box, and maybe that's a lot different on November 20, whatever that is, 23rd, whatever the schedule, whatever the date is for that Tennessee game this year. Never been terribly impressed with that place just as a venue. Obviously, it's really hard to win there, but just the venue itself.
I'll chime in with a couple real quick. I think Auburn, what they've done at Auburn is just awful for media coverage. I mean, I love that stadium. I've always liked that stadium, but I mean, where they put the media and what you've done in the end zone there is just gross. It's just it's really hard. It's really hard to follow the ball there and figure out what's going on there.
Let's explain it though. All these SEC schools, Auburn, Alabama, a lot of these places, Georgia, they were press boxes at midfield, open air.
Yeah, Georgia was the best, by the way.
Incredible vantage points, the perfect spots, and then they realized, hey, we're not making any money on these guys. All these schools did. Alabama, Georgia, Auburn. Auburn's particularly bad because it's almost like a mobile home they just put in the corner of the stadium, and you can't see through the window panes. It feels like you're in the very corner. You have zero depth perception. You can't tell what's going on. Alabama's not much better in terms of vantage point, trying to figure out what's going on. I think radio and TV is still on the opposite side at Alabama, is it not? And writers on the other side.
TV's on the regular side. Radio is on the opposite side.
Okay.
So if you're watching TV and you have a monitor, everything on the monitor is backwards to what you're seeing yourself on the field. So it's unique to say the least. So anyway, we could do a whole podcast on those. We won't do that.
And Neyland's a good vantage point, but it just feels like you're in a blimp because you're so far up. And we're probably going to get moved up higher at some point, I assume, and jammed into the farthest corner that they can jam us in. But that's another conversation for another day.
Georgia?
No, Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Georgia. Yes, Georgia's all-time bad as well.
Austin said he's not covering a game at Georgia unless he's on the field next time.
Well,
which I don't
Georgia has 4 rows in their press box, and it's already up in the farthest corner of the stadium that they can get you in. And it was just me and Austin sitting there on that 4th row in the farthest corner of the press box that's already in the farthest corner of the stadium. And we had a better view of 2 40-inch, flat screens right above our heads than we did of the actual field itself. So maybe if we sat on the first row on the glass, it'd be a little bit different. But me and Austin were basically in the attic of that thing.
I got lucky because there was a seat on the row below, and so just moving down one row made so much of a difference.
Oh
but
yeah,
I'm with
should
you.
Note that too. Eric Cain left us. Eric _ Cain.
1,000% left.
Took the better seat.
Yeah, he left.
Before Boyd Sports bought took over the entire Appalachian League before it was affiliated, there were some amazing venues on the road when I was calling some K-Mets games. Last question here. I know we're already running over it a little bit. Grant, this seems like the perfect question for you because you've seen a ton of halftime shows. Iheartvols with the news of the recent Red Panda tragedy. What are your GOAT halftime performances, football and basketball? Red Panda obviously fell and hurt the wrist, I think, sprained wrist or whatever. So
broke the wrist.
Yeah. It's tough because everybody loves some Red Panda. Red Panda's made it into Netflix shows. That's how big of a deal Red Panda is. She's
human, right? I saw Red Panda fall, and I thought, you know what? If Red Panda can fail, I don't feel so bad about myself regularly failing. What's funny is probably 7-8 years ago, or maybe longer ago, 10 years ago, at Tennessee basketball games, they would bring out a unicycle club from a local elementary school, and I would sit there watching through my hands because it just made me nervous watching these things. I thought, these kids' parents, how do they watch their kids ride these unicycles? And lo and behold, 6 years later, my child joined that same unicycle club from that same elementary school and did that same halftime show at Tennessee games. So that's one of them. The guys that climb those, they basically stack cylinders somehow and balance themselves on top of all those cylinders. And there's one guy that climbs chairs. Basically, it looks like just regular household chairs, and he stacks them up to where he's almost touching like those center hung scoreboards that are hanging down over the court. Like that's how high up in the air he is. So there's a lot of, for a squeamish person like me, there's been a lot of keep your head down and work during halftime because I don't want to watch this go wrong.
The
Also,
Imperials, the little Imperial basketball dribbling
that's awesome.
exhibition team. I don't know if they still come. They used to be a staple. The little kids from out in Middle Tennessee come in. And then they had for the longest time, and they were amazing. I don't know how many hours you have to practice. Do they still have the jump rope people come in that do all the crazy jump rope stuff in basketball? Football doesn't have halftime shows other than the band. I mean, there's nothing in football.
Slow it down and let me in, or I'll go out and get more gin. That kind of
the best halftime show in football is the race to the ice cream machine at the half in Neyland Stadium.
After they unlock it, they got to unlock it first. Some poor soul's got to brave the media to unlock that thing.
I mean, you're working yourself through a line to get to that ice cream,
it's shrinking. It's shrinking year over year. The size of that cooler keeps getting smaller. Also, I didn't mention probably my all-time favorite halftime show is the Frisbee Dogs because they wear little sneakers and they just go crazy and it's awesome.
Riveting stuff here on the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. Appreciate the questions as always. Went a little overboard this week because Austin Price is not on the show, so we can do that. Appreciate you guys sending in some really, really good questions as you do each and every week. Constant conversation happening every single day on the Journalist Quarters, Volquest.com. If you're new to us or if you're listening, we thank you, but you're not a member of the site, come check us out. $1 for your first 7 days. See what we got. It's about to get ramped up. Pretty busy right now, right, with recruiting happening right now. Josh Heupel's club's on a roll. Tony Vitello's in the transfer portal, but fall camp's starting in a couple of weeks, and then before you know it, it's football time in Tennessee. So come check us out, $1 for your first 7 days, and re-up with us and stay with us throughout the season. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for sending in your questions. For Grant Ramey, Brent Hubbs, I am Eric Cain. This has been the Volquest Mailbag Podcast.